Well, hello, Toreros, far and near, and we are on the cusp of week three, lead 663. For some of you, it actually is Wednesday, the beginning of the new week. But today, here in Monrovia, California, it is Tuesday, September 14th, 2021. And just wanted to go over a few things to get our week started off right. Um, Couple things. Let's kind of talk about the writing reduction exercise, which I thought was just spot on and excellent. I think you all did a great job. And when you look at the PowerPoint for this week, which I actually managed to put into make a kind of a Zoom presentation with share screen kind of thing. You'll notice you'll notice a graphic in there which shows how the class performed um, in terms of words you started with, words you ended up with, and the number of words reduced by. So, but for one, I thought it was really interesting to see what you're interested in. I you get to this point in your academic career and things kind of start to focus, things kind of narrow down a little bit. So for me it's interesting to read what the things that you are interested in. And I don't know if they're going to carry over to your dissertation or not, but at least it gives me an insight into the things that motivate you, the things that are um, might pique your interest professionally, which might translate into something scholarly. I don't know, but again, it's very interesting to me to see what you're interested in. If I look over here, I'm looking at I have a little set of notes. Always good to have notes, and I hope I don't stray too far off the script. It's also good for me to see how you write. Um, how you wordsmith, how you shape your ideas, how you voice them on the page, and sort of your command of the language. Writing is a work in progress for everyone. So, but it's good for me. It's good to have a baseline, a frame of reference to see how and to be able to see how you progress over the semester, and then carry that forth into the next semester in our dissertation seminar. But we won't jump ahead of ourselves. Okay, so in as I mentioned, okay, this is important. As I mentioned, you're transitioning from being practitioners, professionals. I mean, you're still practitioners and professionals. Don't get me wrong. I know that very clearly, but you're in your academic work, in your academic world, you're moving from the practitioner mindset, okay, to the scholar mindset, and so your writing needs to reflect that. Okay, so um, it's your status as a scholar is emerging. I mean, you've done your coursework, so you certainly have achieved a level of scholarship that's really important. But now, like I said before, we're taking it to the next level. Um, and so, there's all where you are now is where you are now. That's your degree of scholarly writing. And so, over the semester, I am expecting that is going to improve. And I hope you expect that it's going to improve as well. But by and large, I have to say that I thought um, the word reduced piece, if you want to call it that, read a heck of a lot better than the original. And I hope you felt the same way too. I mean, when you read, because remember, being your own most critical editor requires you to go back and read your work. I mean, a lot of times we write something, go, I don't know if I want to read that or not, but it does require you to go back over and read your work. And what I hopefully you did is after you got done with this exercise, that you went back and you looked at your original piece, and you did a little pre-post comparison. And I hope you realized that or noticed that the quality definitely improved. They were more readable, they were more focused. Um, and I'm not giving, I'm not doing individual comments on this exercise, because the point was just to see, for you to see if you could, take on the challenge of reducing by 200 words something that you had already written. Um, of note, a lot of what you submitted, I didn't really have a good context for, because as I said, I asked you to take an excerpt of something that you'd written. So I really didn't have a real full context of the piece, okay, the original piece. But I did find them interesting, and like I said, they read a lot better once you had gone through and wordsmithed. So that's pretty good. And this is really the only time in this course that you are going to be word constrained. Now, certainly you're going to be page limited, page constrained. But this was kind of a one-off exercise it's a one-off exercise, but it's something that I hope will transcend, the rest of the semester. And that in your, future, whatever you turn in the future is going to reflect this new identity as a critical self-editor. Certainly with PowerPoint presentations, of which you have two, you're already constrained by the size of the PowerPoint slide and the number of words you can put on. I mean, you can put it in 8-point font, I suppose, but that, which doesn't really make a lot of sense. However, you are constrained in that regard. And then you are page limited. And if you ever get into writing for academic journals, you want to publish something, well, you're going to be word and page constrained as well. So you might as well get used to this idea of being constrained, which is not a bad thing. It really is not. And like I've told you, I've gone through some of the work that I've written, and I go, oh my God, how could I have written that? That makes no sense. And so that, you want to minimize that sense of, oh my God, what doesn't make sense, as much as you possibly can. So make your editorship, if you want to call it that, make that a habit. Okay. Read and revise, read and revise, read and revise. And if you have to rethink something, rethink it and then rewrite it again. So, it's a process, right? It's a process, but overall, pretty darn good effort on your all's part. Couple things. I did not specify, and maybe I should have, but I didn't, because I went over my head. I should have specified whether or not to count in text citations references as part of your word limitation. And most of you actually said, well, probably that's what he means, and I didn't say exactly what I meant. So I actually counted the references, because you turned it in and you gave me some of you said, okay, here's my original is so many words and my reduced version is so many words. And I said, well, okay, I'll take your word. I kind of take your word for it. I always verify. So I did my own little word check, or word count, and counting in, I discounted any headings. Okay, for me, that wasn't part of the word count. I didn't specify that either. I mean, some things I just left out, and I apologize for that. But be that as it may, here are some statistics. And like I mentioned, there's a graphic in your week 3 PowerPoints, the new PowerPoint version. Hopefully we'll be able to use for the rest of the semester. Here are some of the data. So the starting range was 496. This is on the original. We went from across all 13 of you from 496 to 666 words. Okay. Now I said 500, didn't I? Did I not? I did say 500. But I think for some of you, it's like, well, it doesn't make sense. You need to really get the full sense of what I'm trying to say, which is fine. And you know, in this exercise, I'm not as geeked out or, you know, upset or whatever it is by, you know, by not adhering to the what I actually said. Um, because what was important to me was the reduction, the process you went through to go from the original to the, you know, to the your second iteration. So some of you started at 496, some of you started at 666, and everyone was in between. So the average starting number of original number of words was 555. The ending range, some of you got down to 238, some of you get down to 430. But if you started up relatively high, then getting down to 430 kind of made sense, right? The average number of words reduced was or the average ending spot, landing spot, if you want to call it that, was 303 words. Not bad. I said 300 words, and you got pretty darn close. I wasn't expecting perfection. I was just expecting you to go through a process, and I wanted to see what that process was. So the word reduction range went from 187 to 307. That's it's pretty big. Okay, and the average numbers of words reduced was 259. Exceeded I said you get it down by 200. Bang, 259 exceeded the standard by 59 words. That's pretty darn good. So that was a good job, everyone. And like I said, I didn't do individual comments because I just, you know, the important thing was for you to go through this process, and now it's going to be habitual. I'm going to keep saying that word, habitual, 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 and you're going to keep, you know, this is your mindset going forth. Observations, okay, generalizations, not, you know, this is things that I saw over the course of reading through your originals and your reduced word copy. Use the Oxford comma, okay? If you have let's say you have 3 items in a row, blank, blank, and blank, okay? Comma after the first, comma after the second, in between the second and the and then whatever the third item may be. So so if you have 3 or more items in sequence, 3 or more, always put a comma between the next to last and the last item. Okay, Oxford comma. Right. Some people don't care about the Oxford comma. I care about the Oxford comma. Okay. Maybe just kind of a, I don't know. You may think it's like it doesn't make any sense, but it does. When you put the Oxford comma in, it reads a lot better. When you have the word but, put a comma before the word but. Okay, no buts about it. All right, comma before but. When you submit something, before you submit it, if you see the green grammar line underneath, okay, do try to fix it before you submit it. Okay, I mean, part of the exercise is to go from more rigorous writing, I guess, right? You want to go in, you may be a little lackadaisical, but now I want you to be a little bit more rigorous and thoughtful about the way you write, okay? And so if you see the little green line, the little grammar line underneath, fix it, okay? It really is not. It's paying attention to the details. Pay attention to the details before you submit something to someone who is going to be evaluating your work. Yeah, it's common sense. You don't want to ultimately you don't want to hand something to your committee that they're going to go, this isn't meeting the standard. This isn't scholarly enough. It's got mistakes. We can't have mistakes. So pay attention to those little details. And the same thing with the spelling. Okay, when you get that little red line under a word, especially the proper names of people, okay, do add it to your dictionary before before you submit it. I mean, it's just it's just common sense. We don't want, no one wants to see the green lines. No one wants to see the red lines. So fix the things that need to be fixed before you submit them. Okay, that's that's reasonable, I think, right? So some, as reading these, I'm thinking to myself, okay, what are you trying to say? What are you trying to convey to me? What what do you want? What is it that's most important to say to me? That's being beyond being an editor. That's when you write something, you have to think carefully about what you're trying to say, the arguments you're trying to make. What is it that you want to convey to the people that are reading, let's say, and we're always going to use the standard as the chair in the committee because that's the audience right now to which you need to satisfy. Not right this second, but down the road a piece. And that's the mindset you need to have, So just think about, before you write something, think about, what am I trying to say? Okay. Does it make sense? I mean, you can wordsmith till the cows come home, but you can take out words, you can take out adjectives, adverbs, conjunctions, whatever it may be, but the writing still needs to be clear, and it has to make sense. So it may make sense to you, but make sure it makes sense to the people that are reading it. Okay. You know what I do? Little hint. I put everything in. When I do literature reviews or when I'm writing something, I take everything that I'm interested in, all the material, and I just put it into like a repository. Then I wordsmith it down. I organize it so that in the arguments I'm trying to make, I organize it in such a way that it, so it kind of makes sense. There's a kind of a logical flow. And then I try to, I take out redundancies. I try to link one idea to the next idea. When you're writing a paragraph, you're writing your whatever your idea you're trying to convey, and then before you get to the next idea, you kind of presage whatever the next idea may be, so that there's a continual flow. But what I put it all in, I take it all back out in a systematic way. So, choose your words carefully. If 3 words, go with the 1 word. Okay, as much as possible. I've written a lot, but for you to kind of get a good criteria. Apply the criteria to the literature review only, chapter 2. Okay, so you have to go through the dissertation. You have to be able to summarize, not summarize, but you need to pick out the key elements, and I specify in your PowerPoint for this week. I specify exactly, or was it this week? Or was it last week? Whatever, maybe it was, specify what you need to write. No, it's for this week. Okay, this week in the syllabus it explains, and the PowerPoint explains exactly how you are to construct your slides. Get a little bit. Woo! It's week 1, week 2, week 3. What week is it? Anyway, so you read the whole dissertation and you apply, because you pick out some of the points and the key points, like what methods they use, their procedures, their analytical. I really think it's good for you to go through that, because then you can see how, especially if you haven't had a lot of methods courses, you see exactly how how they collect, what instruments they use, what tools they use. So it gives you a better frame of reference for your own, thinking. Okay, so you're applying the criteria, 5 criteria, only to the literature review itself, and that's not an onerous task, I think. Now, this exercise doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, the reason why we're doing this is because this, and I said this last week, that these 5 criteria are going to be applied to you. They're going to how you're going to be evaluated on your part A. So you need to in order for you to understand the level that you need to the level to which you need to perform, then you will, by knowing what the criteria are, then you have a much better sense of how to evaluate it. So doing and being in the evaluation itself, it really kind of hammers it home a little bit better. You can read it all, but until you apply it yourself, you really don't understand, and you just really don't integrate it into your conceptualization of, you know, a 4-point scale doesn't seem to make a lot of sense for some of the criterion. Okay, get moving on this. The sooner you get moving on your sourcing your literature, the better. All right, so